Welcome back, Charger Chat. And I'm Bailey Hansen, and this is Sabrina Schoonover. And this is Mr. Hansen here today. And we're going to be talking about mock trials. So, Mr. Hansen, what exactly do you do?
Well, I'm a teacher at 10th Street first and foremost. I've been in the Marysville District since 2005, and mock trials part of my curriculum as well as the clubs that I advise.
So, what exactly do you teach?
I teach social studies to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders.
That's very cool. But how does mock trial relate to social studies?
In a lot of ways, mock trial, our learning with that starts with understanding the United States Constitution, the foundations for government, and then it kind of evolves into the first generation of the United States Republic, and we take a look at things like Marbury versus Madison and the evolution of judicial review and things like that, and then we jump into the trial process, etc.
Can you explain to me what mock trial is?
Mock trial is an extension of YMCA Youth in Government. It is a program that has existed since the late 1980s. YMCA is also well known for its Youth Ledge. Mock trial has been designed for all of that time to teach kids about the legal process, the court structure, and the way the American legal system works.
Wow. What are the rules of how it works? Like, are there specific rules that you have to take?
Yeah. So at the beginning, I don't know if we have our props with us or not. Bradley, do you have the mock trial book handy? Yeah. At the beginning of a mock trial process or cycle, they send out one of these case kits. Inside of that, there are 8 different witness affidavits. There are rules of competition. There are rules of evidence. And there are additionally several pieces of evidence that the kids have to learn and bring it to trial. And what trial looks like is 4 witnesses and 2 or 3 attorneys, depending on the level, go to an actual courtroom and try a case versus another school in front of an actual judge.
Wow. Before you became a social studies teacher, did you want to become like a lawyer before you became a social studies teacher?
No, mostly before becoming a social studies teacher, I wanted to become a rock star.
Mm-hmm.
Just kidding. No, it just kind of evolved as part of my curriculum. My wife actually is a teacher as well, and she taught this the first time way back in '94. She brought it to my attention. She did it as part of her business law curriculum.
Okay, so this is Bradley, and Bradley, how do you go into all of this? What is it that you've done?
Well, I have been an attorney on mock trial this is my 2nd year now, including last year at the middle school level, and I really enjoyed it last year, so I did it again this year. It's very fun.
Wow, I see. So what sparked your interest in becoming a mock trial?
Mm-hmm. Well, kind of going through that first year with my wife back in '94, I kind of saw it as a unique learning experience. Mm-hmm. Kids who are involved in mock trial sort of get a different opportunity that doesn't present itself often in other areas of curriculum. You find yourself in a situation of preparation, which is typical in an educational setting, but when you go into court, when you go into court, you find yourself in a situation that's dynamic. It doesn't unfold the way that you think it will. Things change rapidly, and you have to think on your feet, and sometimes everything that you've prepared goes out the window, and you have to create plan B in the moment.
Yeah. When I was in 8th grade, I had a teacher who also taught mock trial. We had one specific one where it was about Native American bones and who it belongs to. Do you guys have any specific ones that are your favorite? Bradley, do you have a specific trial that was your favorite?
Well, as this is my only second one, this is only my second one. I don't have much to go on, but I like this one a lot because it's very, very complicated, and I like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Where is it that you do these mock trials? Where do you go? Is it just in your classroom, or where is it at?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah.
At 10th Street, it's an extension of my curriculum for several weeks, so we do it as part of the curriculum. for the high school team, it's extracurricular, and at the moment it's through the YMCA. We started out with designs of making it a school club, but in that we have kids from 3 different high schools. That meant 3 different ASBs and 3 different sets of meetings, and it became kind of undoable, so we returned it to its root. It lives at the YMCA now.
Serena, have you ever done mock trials?
I think I have in like middle school, but I don't remember like any of it.
Yeah, I thought they were really fun when I did it. So, what do you think was your biggest accomplishment doing mock trials or social studies? Like, what do you think that you've done that like you thought was a very cool accomplishment?
Well, I guess in terms of accomplishments that I would be proud of, it's just simply providing an opportunity for kids to take part in this. Kids have accomplished a lot since doing it. Bradley was actually part of the first middle school state championship team.
Wow. Yeah. Now, where was that at?
That was in Spokane last February.
Do you think about maybe doing something like that in college? Like, did you travel?
I'm not exactly sure what.
Alright, okay. Like, if you were going to college, do you think that's something that you would do? Like, mock trials?
I guess I think what you're asking is if I'm contemplating becoming a lawyer, which is a possibility in my brain. It is a possibility.
How long do you think the trials last on average?
Well, I know because we just did one last night. The trial itself, the case in chief, took about 2 hours and 10 minutes. And then comments probably took an additional 30 plus minutes afterwards. So they're quite lengthy.
All right, thank you guys. Now we're going to go to commercial, and this commercial is called Dog Skit.
Hi.
Hey, what's up? What you reading?
Looking for Alaska.
That's cool. Oh, cool dog. Does he bite?
My dog doesn't bite.
I thought you said your dog didn't bite.
I did say that, but that's not my dog.
Welcome back, Charter Chat. And now we're going to have a sample of the mock trial.
So what we have here is this year's case is actually a really interesting and compelling case. It's a case about a self-driving car colliding with a mule-drawn wagon, which is sort of a juxtaposition of 2 different worlds. And it looks at a lot of real-world issues and things that are unfolding around us day to day. This year's case actually begins, though, with a pretrial motion. The defense team is representing a large corporation that's building the auto-driving car, and they're asking for a sequestration of jurors and their ability to speak outside of court. They want to sort of also close part of the proceedings so that the public can't see what's happening. There's some trade secrets involved. So for this next segment, we're going to have put Bradley a little bit on the spot here, and we're going to have him just sort of do the first minute or two of his presentation of the motion. Now, Bradley's on the prosecution team, so the idea here is that his opponent has already requested the motion. They've asked the judge something along the lines of, Your Honor, we ask for an instruction that you have the jurors sign an agreement that they won't talk about any trade secrets that they hear today. And what you'll hear in the next couple, over the next minute or so, is Bradley's response to the request for that motion.
Your Honor, opposing counsel has asked for a motion to withhold our freedom of speech, among other things. We, the state, respectfully opposing counsel's motion based on the following. 1, the tradition of openly administered trials, the jurors' individual rights to free speech, and a belief that public interest will be served and not harmed by allowing access to the information at issue. Free speech is our most important right, and opposing counsel is asking us to take that away today because of their trade secrets, which are afforded very limited protection under federal law. So I'm still finishing up the rest, and would normally take me many minutes to go through this, but basically what I would normally do is go into depth about all of that, include a bunch of examples from previous trials from higher up courts such as the U.S. Supreme Court and the Washington Supreme Court.
Mostly motions are argued with a lot of basis in case law. What do you feel is your strongest piece of case law for this motion?
There's a case called Rufer versus Abbott Labs by from the Washington Supreme Court that basically says that information from trials should never be closed except when justice so requires, as in to make sure that there are enough jurors still available without any bias for another related case. There's also a piece from the Washington State Constitution that states that trials are always to remain open under any circumstance. So that's another piece that's really strong, important part to my argument.
Wow, that was really cool. Now we're going to go to another commercial break. It's called How Not to Solve a Rubik's Cube.
What's going on, guys? Today's video we will be figuring out how to solve a Rubik's Cube. Basically, you just buy yourself a cube, look online, find out the steps and stuff, and the Rubik's Cube is a complex cube with multiple colors on it. There's green, there's red, there's orange, there's yellow, and then there's white. So what I've searched online is that you want to find the white cross. So you find the center of it that's white, and you go around finding all the squares that have white on it that will make a cross out of it. So I'm looking around, I see them, I flip the thing around, twist it, turn it, all that jazz basically. It's pretty hard that I've found out, and I've been doing this for a while now. Boom, there we go. So I got the white cross, as you can see on here. Now we try to find the signs. Or the corner pieces, what they call it in the world. Pretty hard stuff. I'm getting pretty good at this. Boom, we made a kite. That's all we got time for today, folks. So hopefully you'll be able to solve the Rubik's Cube.
Welcome back, Charger Chat. And now Bradley and Mr. Hanson are going to show us some more examples of mock trial.
So in mock trial, we use evidence in the form of diagrams and pictures that help us with our case. This first one is a diagram of the scene of this accident. Or vehicle 1 is the self-driving car, and vehicle 2 is the mule that came across the road, or the mule-drawn cart. This is the mule. This whole accident was basically caused because some mosquitoes escaped from this biolab that attacked the mule and caused it to go across the road.
Wow.
This second piece of evidence is a tool that flew off of the wagon and went through a window in the car, killing the person in the car. So, because the man in the car died, the state of Washington is charging the maker of the car, Ithacus Corporations, with manslaughter. This is a picture of Ike Arias, the man who was killed. This is a picture of the self-driving car, or more of a diagram. And finally, this is a sticker that was in the car previously. It's a reminder to keep watching the road. This is a very interesting piece of evidence because it is pretty much all hearsay. And what hearsay is a statement that was made out of court and by somebody who is not under oath. So this piece of evidence is very hard to use in court because before you can use any evidence or show the jury evidence, you have to enter it. And there are many steps entering evidence, but at the end, the other team has a chance to object, and they can object to hearsay, which basically means that we cannot use this. However, there are ways to get around it, and one thing that we've come up with is to ask the judge for a limiting instruction, which basically allow for the jury to note that this sign exists, but they cannot know what it says because what it says is hearsay. And now Mr. Hanson, I believe, is going to talk about the jury instructions.
Sure. The jury instructions are typical in any legal proceeding. At the end of the trial and the case in chief, the jury's sent out for a verdict, and they're given a list of things that they have to consider in order for them to return a verdict of guilty. And so the jury instructions in this case start out pretty typical. The state has to prove the manslaughter charge beyond a reasonable doubt. Couple of ones that are interesting to this case are, number one, companies can be put on trial. This is kind of an interesting and evolving piece. We're dealing with this more and more in the legal system today, and as self-driving cars become a reality, this will certainly be dealt with. So companies will be put on trial for problems that occur while those cars are on the road. Any act or any omission of anybody working for a company can reflect on the company. That means in the proceedings, any person who represents that company, from the CEO on down to the people on the assembly lines, anything that they do can be considered in a legal proceeding to some degree. The defendant is charged alternatively in this case, meaning they could get the higher of two charges, manslaughter 1 or manslaughter 2. And the thing that divides those charges is the things that people do. If they are reckless, it would constitute manslaughter 1. If they're negligent, it could constitute manslaughter 2. And my favorite example of the way to tell these two apart is if you were babysitting a child and you handed the child a dangerous weapon and said, "Have fun." That's ridiculous and it's reckless. No one would do that, and therefore it definitely would cause you some problems in the legal arena. But alternatively to that, you could also leave a dangerous weapon in a place where a child could get it. This is considered negligent, and you could have, legal ramifications for acting in such a way as well. So those are the things that they are seeking to prove in this case. And I hope this isn't too boring. I'll try to move a little bit faster. But the prosecution must prove 3 elements of either reckless or negligent acts. They have to prove that it happened in the state of Washington, that it happened within a specific set of dates, and that, of course, there was reckless and or negligent acts. Can I see the second card? Now's where it gets interesting. I'm going to skip ahead to number 8, number 9. This is where it sort of gets in depth. The legal sort of understanding sort of ratchets up a little bit at this pace or at this place in the case. Kids have to start understanding the idea of causation. Anytime that a crime occurs, or at least especially manslaughter, you have to prove that it's caused specifically by the negligent acts. So if the company did 3 or 4 things leading up to this that can be proven to be reckless or negligent, they're guilty or potentially guilty of the crime. But if at any point that straight line between cause and effect is broken, there are intervening variables. And the defense team will try to bring up as many intervening variables as possible. When you interrupt the chain of causation, it weakens the case of the state. And if any of those intervening variables are sort of rising to the level of what's called a superseding cause, then nothing else matters. Reckless acts are irrelevant. And here's an example of that. If while in the car, if you have otherwise proven that Ithaca Solutions had acted 100 different ways recklessly, so much so that they've told the driver that they want him to juggle hand grenades while driving down the road. Incredibly reckless behavior. If out of nowhere a meteor falls from the sky and strikes the car and kills the driver, it's superseding cause. The rest it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. So there are a few things in this case that can rise to that level, and the kids would seek to prove that from the defense team. And Bradley's team would try to prevent it.
Wow, that was very interesting, actually. So.
Or boring.
No, I thought it was really interesting. It reminds me of when I was in 8th grade. That was like my favorite part of that subject. It was really fun.
So, is there like any, or was there like any like embarrassing moments of like teaching or like learning or any big mistakes?
Well, I'm not in the courtroom, so I'm rarely embarrassed if I do something stupid. Nobody knows except, well, him and the other kids. But there's probably been some embarrassing moments that have occurred in court. Can you recall any?
Well, I'm not going to talk about last night. Well, not really, besides last night. So, if sometimes we just forget things, and that can go horribly south. And last night, I guess, the defense team, not me, the defense team went against the second best team in the state, and they did some things that we weren't expecting, and that kind of shut us down. So that kind of thing can happen, and we just have to deal with it.
Yeah, I understand that. So I understand that mock trials is, like very serious, but do you ever like watch like crime shows about like in court? Like, do you guys have like a favorite show or no?
I don't watch that kind of show very often, and there's a reason for that. Mainly because they do a terrible job at representing the legal system.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my comment on that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So.
Some of the shows, not so much. I'll admit, recently I've been watching the show Bull. Ever seen it? It's a show about a guy, Michael Weatherly, I think, is the main character. He was DiNozzo in NCIS. Anyways, he's not a lawyer, but he's a guy who puts together jury panels and mock juries, and a lot of the language they use is legitimately representative of the legal arena. So it's interesting.
Wow.
I've only watched one episode of that show, but interesting to note one of the episodes on that show is about a self-driving car killing a person.
Yeah, I should start watching it. Well, thank you guys, but now we're going to go to another commercial, and it's called Valentine's GPS.
It's almost that time of year again, and you need to find that special someone. Someone to shower them with gifts, and maybe even give them chocolates. There's one problem. You can't find that special someone. What will you do now with all your wads of money? Buy Valentine GPS now. The product is simple. When you see an attractive person, just grab your Valentine GPS and stick it on them. Then go home, open Valentine GPS app on your phone, and you can see exactly where they are. Now you know where they live and you can send them flowers. But let's not send them too much flowers because that's just creepy. Welcome back, Charger Chat. And now we're going to talk about what's going to happen soon this weekend.
So this Saturday we have 3 trials coming up, 2 with my prosecution team and 1 with the defense team. They will be, where are they exactly?
It's the Denny Youth Justice Center in North Everett.
So if anybody wants to come watch us compete, we will be there. And first trial starts at 8:30, second one is 11:30, and the third one is at 2:30. And so this is the district's competition, and if we do well enough, we'll go to states, which is March
25th, 24th to 26th.
Wow. Do competitions happen a lot?
Just once a year, districts, and then state.
Alright.
The competition cycle for mock trial, they released the case in October, and then from basically October till now, you prepare, and there's a district competition, and like Bradley said, if you do well, you can go on to state, and if you win state, nationals.
Wow, that's amazing. How far have you guys gone?
Well, this is the first year of high school mock trial in Marysville for at least a while. This is our first year, so it's still districts, but last year was the first year of middle school mock trial competition, and my team won first place, and first place.
Wow, that's amazing.
Wow.
All right, so I'm going to ask a few more questions about you. So, when did you start teaching?
1993, 4, somewhere in there.
For mock trials or just social studies?
Just licensed teaching.
Wow. How much longer do you think you're gonna keep doing this?
I don't know. Until it's not fun anymore, it's still fun.
Yeah. Do you have anything, Sabrina? No? All right.
And now Bradley is gonna freestyle rap. No, just kidding.
Well, if next year we will have another team, hopefully, and we would like to have a second team or even a third team. So if anybody would like to join mock trial next year, they would be welcome.
It'll be promoted through the high schools, but again, like I said, it lives at the YMCA now. It's a program through them, but we'll get information out to all the various high schools through Marysville for anyone who'd be interested.
All right. Thank you, guys. This was really interesting. Thank you for coming out here and talking to us in Charger Chat about what you do.
You're welcome.
Thank you.